Hello, Valerie and Stephanie. It's Lee from offthevinepr.com. I wanted to wish you guys a wonderful, happy, and festive podcastiversary. I'm sure you're drinking something wonderful to celebrate the occasion. And keep up the awesome work that you do. Cheers to you guys.
It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to Five. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Happy podcastiversary, Val.
Happy podcastiversary to you, my fly, funky, fresh in the flesh, drinking, podcasting sister. Woo! Listeners, you are hearing this as we begin our fourth year of the Wine to Five podcast. Season 4, actually. We're starting season 4 today. So if you wonder what that season thing is in your, what is that, iTunes, Apple, whatever that is now, that's what that means. We're starting season 4. And we're starting it off with what's in our glasses.
What have you got? I don't even see. Show me what you got.
Oh, let me show you what I got.
Show me what you're working with.
See? Look at this beautiful glass.
Look at that.
What's in there?
Looks like a bourbon, maybe?
Yeah. Look at that beautiful brown booze. That's what I have in my glass. This is the Henry McKenna single barrel bourbon. It is a 10-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon that was bottled in bond. And you're going, what? What does that mean, Val? Well, it actually goes back about 120 years to the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897, which was enacted by the 54th Congress back when they, did stuff. Anyway, the days of moving around lighthouses and building bridges across the Yazoo River, for example, these were all enacted during the Bottled in Bond Act, which is really interesting, by the way. These are all things on this 54th Congress, Session 2, Chapter 379, pages 626 through 628, believe it or not. And you can go read it. But what that means is that at that time in the late 19th century, people were kind of adulterating all the spirits. They were adding things. I think we've talked about it before, how people had tried to add things like iodine or, color juice or whatever, some kind of, bad coloring to bourbon and try and pass it off as good stuff. So in an attempt to encourage producers to help fight the problem of other distilled goodies like bourbon or other distilled goodies, the government set up an incentivization system. Read tax breaks. So basically what they said is if you age your spirits in a government-controlled facility or what they call a bonded warehouse, we'll hook you up with a little tax break. But there are requirements, see. And this pretty much explains why there is 100 proof goodness in my glass today. Because part of that requirement is not only to age the spirit for at least 4 years in aforementioned bonded facility. It included, in this case, bringing the bourbon in. The bourbon had to be made in a single distillery. So from one place, and it had to be made from a single season, and it had to meet the 50% minimum alcohol by volume. In a previous episode, Steph talked about proof. So I'm drinking 100 proof bourbon today, and I'm sorry.
We are celebrating, damn it.
We're celebrating, damn it, in the middle of the afternoon. Some producers are still participating in the program, but there is controversy over whether this does confer a quality status on the bourbon. I'd have to say that with this case, there is really no controversy because this is probably one of my favorite beverages right now. It is actually believed to be the longest aged bourbon on the market that is bottled in bond. It is a Heaven Hill product, and I actually told my whiskey purveyor that I wouldn't talk about it because I don't want people to know about it so the prices won't go up.
And you changed your mind.
You know what? It's such a good deal. I think it was like a $50 bottle.
Well, that's good. I was going to ask you what it costs, but you know what, Val? It makes sense that you're talking about it on the podcast because you're a giver.
You know what? And look at that.
Turn
Obviously,
it around.
I love
Let me
it.
see the other side. Oh, yeah.
See the front of it? It's actually numbered. I've had the bottle a couple weeks now. This is barrel number 4084, barreled on December 10th, 2007.
With McKenna really big on the cross, the label.
Right.
Can't miss it.
He was an Irishman who came and was just absolutely seduced by Kentucky whiskeys in the 1800s. So that's who it's named after. It is an absolutely gorgeous bourbon. It's one of those ones that's kind of like chewy in the mouth. It's got a lot of spice, layers of flavors, and long after you swallow it, you're still tasting the vanilla. And even if you just nose it, I mean, it's got that spicy thing going on, buttercream that I like, or honey. And it is just a beautifully done bourbon. And I didn't even know about it until my whiskey guy, shout out to Veterans Liquor, says, you got to try this. Bam.
That's when you need these people to you got to make those relationships to get that insider knowledge.
Well, yeah, we don't know everything. So when you got a whiskey guy who's oddly enough named Justin, you know what? Sell me something good. Yeah. And he does every single time. So what you drinking over there?
I'm having a little happy dance because I just came back from Wine with Lunch. So it's continuing on with many celebrations today. And I have got the 2012 Domaine Carneros Ultra Brut. This is not just brut, it's ultra brut, meaning that it only has a 0.5% dosage.
Ooh.
It is very, very dry. And this is a sparkler from Napa, in case anybody is not familiar with Domaine Carneros. And because it is so dry, I don't know that everybody would love this, but your geeky wine friends do, especially those that are sitting across from you for your podcastiversary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful wine, and it's state-grown fruit, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. It's about 58% Pinot Noir and the rest Chardonnay. And Domaine Carneros is this, grower-producer in Napa. And just to be clear about Carneros, for anybody who doesn't know, but Carneros lies in both Napa and Sonoma. And so this is the Napa side of Carneros. And this is a producer that is from the famed French champagne house called Taittinger. And so
we say Taittinger.
Taittinger.
Taittinger. I have to tell you real quick. Yeah. My French wine teacher, also named Valérie, she used to give the classes in French. And sometimes she kept asking me about, connais Bollinger? Like, are you familiar with Bollinger?
Right.
I'm like, Bollinger? No. Bollinger? And she kept saying it. And then I was like, oh. We say Bollinger.
Yeah.
She looked at me.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
And this was one of those too. Taittinger? I'm like, oh, Taittinger.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
exactly. Sorry. And I've said it wrong for so many years. But yes, that is the way that you say it. And I don't think, a lot of people probably have heard of Domaine Carneros, but not necessarily know the association. And so it is the French style Napa sparkling wine. Beautiful, beautiful. This one is about $45 a bottle. And yeah, you can get it usually at some of your purveyors or online and or on the Domaine Carneros site. But love to have some of these bottles around for these special occasions like our podcastiversary.
Oh, you know what? I could sit on their veranda and just overlook those vineyards and just sip their... We're on their mailing list. So they do really great shipping deals and industry discounts and things. So
and they have a chateau. Literally, it's a place to visit because it is gorgeous.
It's beautiful. Go on a nice day and sit on that veranda and just overlook the vineyards and sip some of their sparkling samples. And then they have like little cheese plates and things you can order too.
Mm-hmm.
It's delicious. But we're going to get back into where we're supposed to going. So I think this is the longest drink segment. 10 minutes in, but you know what?
Yeah.
It's our podcastiversary.
Right.
We're not messing around today. When is it not?
I know. Wait, we're going to talk about what we're drinking. Oh, wait, that's why we started this podcast in the first place.
Hey, that was loaded with factoids. Just saying. That was drinking and factoid palooza.
Right.
But we've actually been gnawing on an idea for a while. And so we thought we would grab a little bit of audio and dedicate this to a segment we like to call Help, I Live with a Podcaster Who Won't Shut the Hell Up About It.
I think it's so funny.
I know. And, often our spouses, as many of you know, have to probably, you think you guys get an earful when at least you're clicking play. They don't get a choice. They have to listen to it whether they click play, and they don't get to turn us off like you do. So we had a couple questions we wanted our spouses to answer. So we managed to tie down our spouses, and Steph interviewed Justin on a Sunday morning at the kitchen table in their Fort Collins home. Additionally, John sat down at Val's desk and he gave his 2 cents on the show. And we always like to remind him because this is mainly all his fault. So for those of you who don't know, John's the enabler. He's the one that set us up with the syndicator, with Libsyn, kind of gave us guidance on audio tools. He's been a podcast listener since before podcasts were a podcast, which was actually in 2007. So he's been a longtime listener of podcasts, and he's pretty much the one that helped us kind of get rolling. And then, of course, Justin, when I heard his audio, I decided to call him the podcast hostage because Justin is not a podcast consumer. Right. He doesn't listen to a lot of them, which is so interesting. So what is going to be really great to hear is the differences in the answers between a podcast aficionado, a guy who always has a podcast playing in his car, like doesn't even listen to music. Right. It's always podcast. And versus Justin, who doesn't listen to podcasts. He listens to, audiobooks or music or what have you, right?
He makes a lot of phone calls when he's in the car.
He makes a lot of phone calls when he's in the car. So this is going to be an interesting thing for you guys to hear, we hope. So we haven't heard all the audio altogether yet. So we'll see what that comes out to. And so we told them they could answer all, none, or some of the below. And those questions are, 1, what is it like to be the spouse of a podcaster for a drinking show?
Well, I think I have this permagrin because this is funny that I'm actually being interviewed with this mic in my face at the moment. Thinking about that you're a host of a drinking show actually is a pretty funny way of describing it. And it's entertaining and it is fun because I get to try some of the drinks and hear some of the stories.
Oh, thank God. I heard voices. I just assumed she was working for a 1-900 network. Needed extra cash. Podcasting. Isn't that nice?
How many episodes of your spouse's podcast have you actually listened to?
Well, I probably listened to the first 25 or whatever. You and I mean, I think I've only listened to probably 2 if you weren't there. But I've listened to it on road trips many times.
So what you're saying is you don't really listen to the podcast, but I force you to listen to the podcast.
Well, in all fairness, I don't listen to any other podcast, so I don't do that. And but I am going to listen to the next one about Porto.
Okay, that is fair. Yeah. Okay, cool. I think I sold you on the Porto one.
How many times a week does your spouse talk about podcasting?
A week? My day is a little different. I arrive home. Hi, darling. How was your... You spent that... How long? That's quite a lot of editing. Your guests were popping what? Did you tell them not to eat during? They were popping their peas? What was wrong with the audio? Really? Yeah, no, I agree. It has gone downhill since Microsoft purchased it. Do you mind if I get out and shut the garage door? I'm going to go work out if it's okay. Yes, darling? You interviewed who? Oh, that's great. Who is she again? She wrote what? I thought the apostles wrote that. Oh, it was the other Bible. Could you hand me the soap? You had what automated? Oh, animated. You were animated. Oh, you were all animated. No, I don't think the iPad's supposed to get wet. Maybe when I'm done with my shower. Yes, dinner, that would be fine. Of course, I'd love to see your website. Again, I love you too.
How many times a week would you say I actually talk about podcasting?
Probably only on days that you have a drink, which is every day and sometimes multiple times a day. Probably 25 times a week.
I'm impressed that you actually have a number. That's pretty good. If you were to give a toast in celebration of your spouse's podcast, what would you say?
Well, that's obvious. What do you think I would say? Well, it's not 5 o'clock and we don't care. Cheers.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good. Should we go on to a factoid because we're about 15 minutes in?
Yes, let's do a factoid because
All right.
we are in the month of April, and it's always interesting, despite which month you're in, but what is happening in the vineyard in April in the northern hemisphere? Because it's important to specify, right? So just like you might be seeing outside your windows, noticing the trees are budding, like our aspens look like they are ready to go. And that's what's happening in the vineyard now too, right? The buds are bursting and these will develop into those precious shoots. But because that is so important, they need to be protected against the spring frosts. So this is kind of an important time. Not that there are like not unimportant times, but this is what is being thought about from the vineyard manager and even the winemaker's perspective. It's also the time when they're starting to do some hoeing and loosening up the earth right around those vines, and even starting to plant some young vines. So if they're needing to put something new in a vineyard or start an existing start a new vineyard, this is the time that they're doing those plantings. But just like all things, this is not black and white, hard and fast, because depending on the specific grower, the variety, even like the exact specific spot in the northern hemisphere, they might be doing this a little bit earlier. They might be doing it a little bit later. So, April is kind of a general idea. And then in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite, right? So the picking or the harvesting it's maybe starting or it's wrapping up, but that's what's going on right now in the southern hemisphere.
And what's really interesting, and it's something we don't even think about, is this applies to olive oil in addition to grapes. I went into an olive oil shop and they had some amazing, was it Chilean olive oil? And they were like, well, yeah, because you think about it, they're harvesting right now.
Yeah. So it's the freshest press.
Yeah. So late spring, early summer for us, you can get some bitchin' olive oils from the southern hemisphere as well.
I like it.
Factoid and a half.
Bonus.
So as for our Wino Radar, well, this is kind of it. We're really excited to start our 4th season of podcasting. And we'd also like to announce that we are starting an Instagram account at Wine25 Podcast. And you're probably wondering what took us so long. And all we can say is some things are worth waiting for. So we hope you like what we're putting together. We hope you're picking up what we're laying down. So we hope you'll jump over there and follow us. And of course, we'll follow you back unless you're trying to sell Twitter followers or you're spam or you appear to be under 21 because, alcohol. So thanks to Steph for getting that up and running. We've kind of been talking about it for a while, and I'm kind of like, oh man, it's going to be like a puppy, man. If you get it, you got to clean up after it. But
we know you guys are on Instagram too, and it's time. So for our anniversary, we're doing this for you guys. And we also are doing something else special for our patrons. We have some newly designed Wine25 buttons that all patrons at all levels, $1 a month, all the way up to $35 a month, will get in the mail very, very soon. And any listeners that sign up to be a patron in the month of April will also get some buttons sent to them. So we just want to say thank you so much, because this show still exists after 59 guest interviews and 158 episodes. We have never missed a week, and we owe a big thanks to our listeners because they put their money where their ears are. And we love you guys. Thank you so much, and helping us get to this milestone. And even though we have a ways to go to reach our goals on Patreon, we are totally moving in the right direction, and we have so much momentum going. It's crazy. Behind the scenes, I don't think you guys really even know what's happening, but we're going to make sure that you start knowing more about that. But, even $1 a month pledge allows us to make this a better show and grow our community worldwide. So we appreciate every bit of help if all of our listeners pledged $1 a month. We would totally reach all of our goals. And that's why we do this. So thank you so much, and extra love to our patrons, and happy podcast anniversary to them too. But before we move on, I have a surprise for Val.
What?
I have a podcast anniversary surprise. However, before I tell her what it is, or more like show her, because she's going to have to go find it, is that I want to do it at the end of the show, like all the Marvel movies, where it's like you have to wait till the very end. So Val, you're going to have to wait till the very end. We're going to do our Patreon shout out, and then you're going to get your surprise.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're my surprise, honey. Oh, you're so funny. All right. So here we go. I'm going to get through these patrons who love us so much, and we love so much because they're here for us week after week. We're going to go through that, and so we can get to another surprise, which is going to be fun. So we'd like to thank our Reserva Superiority supporter, Robin Zalls from Girls Gone Grape, Reserva supporter, Auntie in Georgia, who's retweeting the crap out of our stuff. Thank you so much. Tenacious Tasters, Jeff E. from the award-winning We Like Drinking podcast, Sebastian of Sassy Italy Tours, Jen in Maryland, David and Lisa in Illinois, and Anne Marie out there in Virginia.
And it's not 5 o'clock, and we don't care, listeners. Meg in South Dakota, Clay in Arizona, John Andrew and Iswani in California, Chantel in Ontario, Mary Lou in Pennsylvania, Kathy in Georgia, Chris and Janet and Diane in Colorado, Stephen Renee in Illinois, Kathy in Tennessee, Ashley in North Carolina, and Sean in Ohio, and our Tastemaker listeners, David in Scotland, Carol in Kentucky, Karen in California, Chip and Katie in Pennsylvania, and Danielle. And for more details, please visit our patreon.com/wine25podcast. And you'll learn about our monthly drawing and all of the content and swag you will get if you sign up. And go to our website if you want to shop with our affiliates for books, art, travel, gifts. There's all sorts of things that we have there for you to check out besides the blog.
You know what? Yeah, we do put some work into our website. We really do. So there's a lot of stuff to go click around. And, you know, there is a media kit actually on our About page at the bottom there. And so there's some good stuff on there. You can just click subscribe, and do all those things there. So there's a lot to do over there. And you can see pictures, links. So if you didn't quite catch what we were talking about, you go there, the show notes. And I've started time stamping things lately too. So you're kind of like, where did they talk about Bottled and Bond again? Oh, it's 16 minutes in, so I don't have to listen to Val go on and describe her bourbon or whatever. So you guys can actually go there and do a little bit more. It's like the spice, you know, the seasoning to the show that we're cooking up for you.
Yeah.
All right. So we're here for you every single week between episodes. You can find us on the social spaces at Wine25 and soon to be on Instagram. And we encourage you to join our private Facebook group called the Wine to Five Community. Listeners are out there sharing, and Steph's kind of herding those cats, which is really great. I check in occasionally. And then, of course, I'm Val, and you can find me at Wine Gal on Boxby and all kind of snarky on Twitter, and as Vino with Val on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Steph, she's everywhere as the Wine Heroine.
Are you guys ready for this surprise now?
Oh, yeah. I was going to wrap it up. All right.
Val, I am so excited to do this. Okay, so it's kind of like a scavenger hunt. You need to go to our Dropbox.
I just turned off notifications for Dropbox too, so let me go there.
Yeah, that's why I waited to the end.
Oh, look at this. Surprise for Val, MP4.
Oh.
Are we going to be able to show this to them?
You're going to have to watch it.
All right. Let me see. Uh-oh, what is this? My QuickTime player is bouncing up and down, so I'm going to take a shot of bourbon here. Oh, it blacked out the whole screen. Oh! Oh, I've got a huge rack. Oh, my goodness.
Surprise.
That is so cool. Okay, guys, what you can't see here was the unveiling of our new animated promo. And we did include it in the show notes this week in the blog under episode 158. And I would love to thank Steph for doing this. I had no idea she was being sneaky, and she found us an animator that was not only in our budget, but that was super creative, super fun to work with. And we can't thank John at Odd Pumpkin Studio at Pixie Link Art on Twitter enough for making us hot. So the rest of the audio left in the podcast, there's just an additional minute of us discovering all the goodness that's in this video. Again, you can see the video on our website. It's also in our media kit. It's being unveiled on Facebook this weekend or this past weekend, and also on Twitter, but you're going to see it everywhere. And thank you guys so much for hanging with us this last 3 years. And here's to a 4th year. Cheers.
Do you like it?
Yes! Oh my God! Steph! He took 20 years and then, put my boobs up the 3 inches where they were back in the day. Oh my God, we're hot!
I told him, I said, I want our silhouettes to come to life.
This is so awesome!
Happy anniversary!
Thank you! This should be the first thing on Instagram, yes?
First one or second or something.
Yeah, right? You know what I really like is all the links at the end.
Yes.
I really like all those visuals.
Yeah, because it's like an action step right at the end. It says subscribe, and then it shows you where we are. But I really like in the beginning how it's like the sexy man is a real thing, and then like...
I like this. Oh my God, we're so hot. Oh, I love it.
Yes.
We're still recording.
We're still recording.
I love it. That last one, look at that. Google Play, Player FM, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Spotify. That is beautiful. Are we done?
Yeah, let's stop.
Stop.
Thank you for listening to the Wine to Five podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.